Hey guys, and welcome to True Crimes, where you will hear some of the scariest stories or the weirdest things that we have found on the internet. And today, we're switching things up a little bit. Normally, we get on here and we talk about a creepy story or something that scares the living bejesus out of us. I wanted to come on here and talk about the Milwaukee cannibal, aka Jeffrey Dahmer. Have you guys seen the Netflix show?
I've seen like bits and pieces of
Yeah.
It's gruesome, girl. It is gruesome. So for anyone that hasn't watched it, Evan Peters is Jeffrey Dahmer. Killed 17 men and boys and almost killed 18. All of his victims were colored men. Most of them were in the LGBTQ community, and he really did prey on younger men. And specifically, if you really look into his like story and what he told the police, he was like obsessed with the male body and just having like full control. So his last victim, his name was Tracy Edwards, who was 32 years old. And when Jeffrey Dahmer took him back to his apartment to kill him, he was immediately taken back by the foul smell because he had up to this point killed so many guys. He would cut off their parts like heads. He had severed heads inside his refrigerator, just different parts of the male body. Most of them he would disintegrate in hydrochloric acid. And that, of course, releases a smell. Imagine all of that was happening inside an apartment. Jeffrey was so like almost used to being able to get away with it, like get away with killing, that he didn't even like, he just got messy at the end. So he literally let him go in a sense to go to the bathroom. Tracy ends up leaving, comes back with police, and that's finally in 1991, it's finally when they catch him. The crazy thing is, before this happened, there was one more instance where police officers actually came to Dahmer's apartment, that same apartment that Tracy Edwards had come into, that he smelled the stench. He saw all the crazy things happening in there. So there was a time where police came in there. The victim, his name was Conorak Synthasamphone. He was 14 years old. He had actually drugged him, right? But somehow, Conorak was able to leave the apartment at one point fully drugged while Dahmer was like out. I don't know if he was shopping for something or he was working. The police were convinced that he was 19 years of age and drunk because that's what Dahmer told them. He was like, oh no, that's my boyfriend. And he's just been drinking too much. I'm just going to put, and this is a 14-year-old boy. I don't know if they were afraid because the prejudice, I guess, behind gay relationships at that time. They allowed this boy to come back to Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment.
Jesus.
And yeah, and to my understanding, they actually went into the apartment. So how did they not see anything? How did they not smell anything? They just allowed this little boy to be with him at that state. I mean,
right.
At the most, they should have done a little bit more research, and that probably would have saved his life. He didn't want to keep killing, is what he says. He just wanted him to be like in a state of coma. And unfortunately, he did turn into one of his victims because he eventually did kill him, drugging him up with more of what he was using to kind of zombify him, which didn't work at all. Honestly, I just think the feeling of emptiness for him just became like too much. Like he didn't really care at the end.
I did some research on him, and apparently he has about 145 IQ score. So the man is very smart.
Yes,
he has
borderline genius.
Yes, superior range in all due reality. I think that once he messed up and he didn't want to keep killing and ended up killing, it messed up his mojo and it made him go out of control, and that's what ended up making him be so messy towards the end.
To that, you can tell at some point it just became too much. It's like it was like a ball rolling down the hill, right? Or
right.
like a snowball. You know, it starts small and then it just keeps going bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just I think it was just too much for him to handle. I felt like he just knew he was gonna, like he knew he was gonna get away with it. You know what I mean? Because he was a white gay guy in that time. So he was preying on, unfortunately, people of color. He definitely got away with a lot, but by the end, he just, they say he became sloppy. I think the feeling of emptiness just took over, and he was just like, he didn't really care.
That was 13 years of him, sorting out his victims.
Exactly. 13 years murdering 17 men.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. And at first it wasn't so close, but by the end it was like one right after the other, which is crazy. But his last words were, I don't care if I live or die, go ahead and kill me. He was like an empty shell almost. And that is scary.
By that point, he was just like done. He was over it.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
He had a bunch of different psychotic disorders, like he was psychosis, he had BPD, he had some other STPD. He had a couple things, and in the end, it didn't really get him that far, honestly. He ended up dying by one of his own inmates. Like one of his own inmates that he stayed in a room with. So it's like, wow.
Yeah. Which is crazy because all that time he did all that because he wanted control, and he had no control over his own death.
Right.
Although they say he didn't fight back either. So again, I think by then he was just detached.
I don't know how you guys feel about serial killers, but sometimes I just feel like it's something traumatic that happens in their life or something that they've seen that just flips a switch. That's crazy.
His parents divorced at 14, and that got nasty. And I'm sure after that, he probably just detached himself.
Sad.
That
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different, our segment today, but if you guys have any weird, crazy stories that you guys know of, any serial killers, info, fun facts, anything you want to drop down below, go ahead and do so. And as always, if you weren't scared, you are now. Next.